Hello guys, and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel. I am Ben, and today I'm joined by Josh from Red All Over. How are you doing, mate? Are you keeping well?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad. Thank you very much. Obviously, you're on to look ahead to the visit of Barnsley to Bank at the weekend. We were just discussing briefly off air. It's been an interesting week for you guys so far. We'll touch on it briefly, and obviously, the FA have sort of unceremoniously, shall we say, kicked you out of the FA Cup for fielding an illegible player on the replay in the last round. So, I mean, we'll get out of the way. You know, we'll talk about it briefly. But how are you feeling as fans from that point of view? Is that sort of a how can that happen moment, or
Yeah, definitely. I think that sort of it's not helped the fan and board relationship because it's been rocky over the past few seasons as well. And last season we sort of built and started healing in a way as a fan base and started coming back together as a community. And then things like this happen, and it's just one of those things. It shouldn't ever happen at any level realistically, but a professional side. And it's that lack of like oversight of what it has. The knock-on effect which it's going to have as well of we're not going to be in the second round and potential of getting through to the third, the prize money for that, and then also going into the third round should we have drawn a big side at home, the gate receipts as well. So it's that continuous knock-on effect. And again, like I mentioned about the relationship between the fans and the board, it starts to erode away at that relationship that's sort of been healing up until that point, really.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's put that aside. You know, obviously, you've now got the free weekend in December to do all your Christmas shopping like we have. You know, we were, yeah, it was a tradition for us up till about 2016, 2017 when we went on that great run, and it seems to be back again now. But look, let's talk about it. You obviously got off to a great start in the season, thumping Port Vale 7-0 on the opening day. Had a few good results since then. You know, you've only lost 5 in the league, I think, so far this year. Currently sat in 6th, 1 point above the Imps. Is that about where you thought you'd be? Or, you know, are you kind of outperforming your expectations, or are you wanting more from the side at the minute?
For me personally, it's outperforming it. I think there's one thing sort of within the Barnes fan base at the minute is there's a range of expectations we lost Michael Duff, we lost Mads Anderson, we lost Liam Kitchen. There was sort of that spine was eroded. We lost his goalkeeper as well as number one choice. So the foundations which we're building from it's a lot further down than what it was. The board said they'd go one further this season, but having lost Kitchen and Mads during that time, you're looking probably combined between them 200-300 championship appearances, and they've been replaced by non-league players. One coming from Woking, I want to say, and then the other coming from Pontycoloris, which is well down the non-league pyramid. And it's sort of one of those things of, well, you can't expect to be back right back up there and go one further and one better with that spine in the team. And then obviously the pre-season which we had as well was so bitty. Took us 3 or 4 weeks to replace Duff over the summer, giving Neil Collins much less time to sort of get his point of view across. And then we just kept cancelling pre-season friendlies as well. I think we ended up cancelling 2 or 3. So I think we only had 3 or 4 games prior to the season starting, and sold James Norwood, who at the time became a good fan favourite and is quite pivotal in the style of play in which we looked to play of high press. It was quite important in that. We lost him on the eve of the opening of the season. And it was just one of them with the expectations were all up in the air. I think at the minute we are outperforming, as performances don't match up to where we actually are. We're probably, I would say performance-wise, mid-table. But the results and the clinical nature, Devante Cole has somehow found a really red-hot form recently. And I think his conversion rate is only second, 12th of May in the league. So we've not been creating as much necessarily, but the chances which we have done, we've taken them. So we are kind of in a little bit of a false position. It's going to be interesting to see sort of as we play stronger sides in the league as well of where we'll face out. Because when we have come up against Peterborough, Portsmouth, Derby, we've shipped 3 goals against all of them and lost all 3 of those games. Oxford as well to that. So that's 4 sides that are sort of better in the league that we've really struggled against.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I mean, look, you've obviously mentioned Devante Cole. We'll come on to him in a few minutes, but from looking at the side and looking at the your results and everything so far, seems like you've got goals all over the pitch. Obviously Cole's standing out with 11, at which at this point in the season, no one can complain about that, really, can they? But you've got, I think you've got second highest goal scorers in the division, and there's goals coming in from all over the pitch. I think you've got 12 different goal scorers in the league. I think we've got 13, which is an amazing thing to see from our side. But how do you guys set up, and is it kind of in that favour of having players with a bit of freedom to get forward and do what they want to do and get on the end of crosses or make runs into the box and get shots off?
It's really weird how we play at the minute. It's one thing, the board said they wanted to replace Duffus and replace him with a style which was a 3-5-2 with a high press, and we don't press. We do a really weird press in a way. It's not all out, like we will not press your back line at all.
Okay.
It'll be much more structured and controlled, and this build-up play is a lot slower as well. It's very reminiscent of when Russell Martin was at Swansea and they'd do like 1,000 passes in a game. That's what we'll just pass it from side to side and then hope to sort of find an overload at some point to them running behind. But in terms of setting things, a lot of it comes wide, and I think a lot of them goals in which we have scored from different players is when the ball's going to box, it's been cleared, and it's sort of that second phase then of where it drops and who it gets and trying to win them second balls. Because Callum Styles and Herbie Kane have picked up a few of their goals this season from being in and around the edge of the box, mopping up anything that's been cleared defensively. So we do like to attack out wide and use as wing backs, and we really struggle with that plan B as well. Of if we can't get down them flanks and get them crosses in, we seem to struggle massively to find another avenue to go down.
Okay, so it sounds like Lasse Sorensen's going to have his work cut out on the right hand side this weekend. Then.
Yeah, he'll be busy.
Absolutely. So, I mean, one area that I think we've had success in over the past few seasons, obviously we've changed our strategy on that now, is with lone goalkeepers coming in. Obviously, you've got is it Liam Roberts in at the moment on loan, and by all accounts, he's absolutely fantastic. I've seen quite a few highlights where he's made some stunning saves, and by the looks of it, maybe kept you in a few games. I mean, how is he working out? And I think from my point of view, is that lone keepers in League One and League Two, they're usually a better bet than taking a risk on a full-time signing. I mean, how have you seen that play out for you guys so far?
Oh, definitely. We saw it a little bit last season as well when Harry Isted came in for the second half of the season on loan from Luton. So I completely agree with what you just said there. Sort of the loan signings are a bit of a better bet. I mean, Liam Roberts says, when I say we're almost in a bit of a false position, it's probably down to Devante's clinical nature at the minute and also Liam Roberts' saves, because I think against Cheltenham, there are 2 or 3 saves that other keepers were 3-0 down. And that's probably one thing which we've seen since he got injured. I think he got injured maybe 3 weeks ago. And since then, no disrespect to Ben Killip, who's come in, but he's just not on the same level of Roberts at the minute. Roberts came in and there's been multiple saves which he's pulled off. And it's just, that's a goal for maybe a full-time keeper in this league, but because he's maybe taken that step down, he's clawing the ball from all angles that it should be a goal, and when it's not, you're like, we've saved one there. So I'd say he's easily contributed to 9 or 12 points so far this season for us. Wow.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I did see. I think there was one in the opening game where he basically clawed it out from the inside of the post and pushed around for a corner. It's like, yeah, it looks. I mean, we had success with Carl Rushford last season, and in the past we've had like Josh Griffiths in, and players of that caliber that come down. I think we always say that when you're looking for a goalkeeper, you've probably got 2 or 3 top class keepers at Premier League sides that come down and come into it. So, Carl, then let's talk about Devante Cole. He's he seems to be the complete striker for you guys at the moment. He's I think it's been with you for 3 or 4 seasons now, 2 or 3. Yeah, I think looking back through his history, I think he was with you on loan many years ago, and then came back after a few spells at other clubs. But 11 goals, and it doesn't look like he's going to slow down anytime soon. He's a unit. He's got pace. He's got clinical finishing. Is there anything that we can do to stop him? Is the question.
It's really weird with him because he when he first came back, it was one of those signings. I think we was in Championship at the time, and it was like, that's all right. It'll be good squad depth at the time. And then when we got relegated, it was like, he could be strong in this league. And I think last season we saw him sort of get tutored somewhat by James Norwood in that front line, sort of helping develop his game of knowing when to press, knowing when to sit off, and also getting a bit of experience in a way of using your body to play. And then this season, he's come on leaps and bounds in terms of he's got a half-yard extra pace. And there's one thing before which he's much better acting on instinct. If the ball's in the box and it's one-touch finish, he'll be fine. Whereas if he's got time to think about it, it could go anywhere.
Right, okay.
Whereas this season, he can pick up the ball on the halfway line, and he's got this confidence about him. He'll glide past players, and I forget who it was against now, but he picked up the ball on the halfway line, beat 2 players, and you could just see with the way that he shaped up on the edge of the area that it was going to pass into top corner all day long, and that's exactly what he did. And it's the first time in which we've seen him do that and have that confidence to take an opportunity like that, because over the last 2 seasons prior to it, he'd take his time with it, or and lose a ball, or he'd pass it on to someone else to see if they could continue his good work. It looks like he's got that bit of confidence now and that clinical nature to step up and be the main man, and be the one that sort of puts the team on his back at times. And he's like, right, I'll go and win it in this moment now. Or if something does drop in the box, that's the person you want to be there that's trying to poke it home and flick it in at the minute.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, looking at some of his goals, he's a striker that I think any team in this division would gladly take off your hands. But there'd be, I suppose that's what you get when you have, the pedigree and the blood running through you from his father. So,
Exactly.
it's an interesting one for sure. One signing that, well, 2 I think I wanted to pick up on. There's one that you mentioned. Is it Casper came in from Woking. You said it was replacing a Championship player that he came from non-league, and he seemingly settled in very well for you guys. How's he done?
He's done all right. There's still that rawness of him being young, and there's still sort of the rawness of him being non-league compared to the sort of more astute nature of playing professionally. And I think it's caught him out from times of just being too tight to a striker, and they've used the body and rolled him a bit too easy, and a little bit with the pace of the game as well. He seemed to have grasped it at the start much quicker than what I thought he would have done. But he sort of is a little bit inconsistent at the minute, and it's sort of the demands of the professional game a little bit more. But he's slowly but surely finding his feet. I think he went out with I think it was rumored dislocated shoulder, but apparently he's back in training and playing already, which I think was about 3 weeks ago. And since then, there's been a little bit of a shuffle in that back 3. But I think if he is the one that sort of sits centrally to it, and he's covered by 2 more experienced players left and right of him, he could shine in this side, because we've not, between the other defenders which we've not got that big, strong centre half that goes and wins header and does more of the dirty work and the ugly side of defending, of going, hitting players, and going and winning big headers. Whereas the other players we've got a little bit cuter on the ball and a little bit more refined and more the finished article, which I think he'll get there. It's just in this first season in League One, he's just taking a little bit of time to bed himself in.
Okay. And the other one that I wanted to mention was Mr. Waters. Obviously, you had him on loan last season. He's come back as a permanent signing. It seems like he's been playing a bit more off the bench than starting. Is that primarily just due to Cole's form, or has he fallen off a little bit?
It's a bit of a weird one. Is the Waters signing, because when he did come to us, he came with the pedigree of what he'd done at MK Dons at the time, and we were like, oh, this will be it might be that sign that gets us over the line last season, but it didn't. And when he came back on a permanent, we've now got the bonus of his potential should he come good in the future. But he is a player that is like Marmite for Barnsley fans at the minute. Some people like give him time to bed themselves in, and others like it's like playing with 10 men at other times. And I can see both sides of the argument, because he's going to take time to develop into whatever way in which he wants to play, and just finding his feet at this level. But I do think he just is missing that clinical nature and sort of the selfishness of an actual striker. It's almost like an additional midfield at this point. I looked at his stats the other day, and he's featured in 18 games, had 9 shots, which
Right. Okay.
I think compared to Devante, who's had maybe 40 something or 40 odd shots, he's had less shots than both his starting left wing backs and right wing backs. So when he does pick up the ball in the final third, he's just looking to pass it constantly, and sort of you can see it's a little bit it's getting to a bit, and he's missing that confidence which you want your striker to have of when they're in that position, like, right, I know exactly what I'm doing, whereas he's second guessing and thinking all the time of, well, what's the best option here, and he's not really backing himself when he gets into those areas in which you would like him to be. I think there is the potential there, but at the minute it is trying to I think Neil Collins has got the headache of trying to find that striker that plays next to Devante, because we seem to keep rotating it every 2 or 3 games because we're not getting the consistent results. And it's sort of a rock and a hard place of, well, do you stick with one to sort of try and develop that partnership, or do you swap him out and try and bring in someone else that might just naturally strike up that partnership between them? So it's been a really tricky one trying to tie down that second striker role at the minute for us.
Okay, fair enough. So look, let's start to move on. I mean, obviously, you guys, is it a 3-4-1-2 or 3-1-4-2? You got either a defensive midfielder or a number 10.
It seems to be more of a 10 at the minute.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was going to say, looking back over a few games, it seems like there was the defensive play, and then you switched it up to that 10. How's it working for you at the moment? I mean, obviously, you're banging goals in left, right, and centre by the looks of it. Although there was an interesting stat that I saw that the home our average home goals scored and your average away goals scored is bang on equal at the minute. So that bodes well for Saturday.
It's a great draw.
Yeah. So yeah, how do you guys tend to set up? You mentioned there that you don't really press people, and that you tend to pass it around and try and look for the opening. Is there any scope to switch that up? And do you guys, how do you attack teams?
It's been really, really strange. So in the few times where we have pressed aside, we pressed Cambridge in the first half against them and went 4-0 up in about 35 minutes. And when we're 3-0 down against Portsmouth, we started pressing in the second half, brought it back to 3-2, and by the end of it, we actually had a chance of scraping a point back. But the way in which we set up with this 10, it seems to defensively, it doesn't work as the way in which I thought it would do, in terms of the 10 sort of dropping in to make a 3 and making it hard for the back 3 to pass out, or the back 4, depending on who we're playing. And I think what we seem to be doing is sort of sitting back in our structure and sort of letting the other side come on to us, which, especially at home, it's not working because sides expect us to go and attack them. Whereas defensively, we're not trying to nick it high up. But then we end up caught in this weird situation of we've sat back, but there's massive holes left and right in terms of the wing backs sort of having to cover that half space that you'd expect the 10 to help fill. And then we get caught down the flanks really, really easy. I know recently when we shipped 3 against Horsham, every single goal came down that right-hand side by them just pinning a winger as far wide as possible, and our wing back not picking her up, centre half not moving across as well. And we got a team that's down in 7th tier ran right against us on that right-hand side. So it's been really, really weird. I think at the minute, the problem Collins has got is that Luke O'Connell's out, who's probably going to be the heartbeat of the team when he comes back. And I think from that point, we'll probably shift back more to that 3-1-4-2 rather than one in the hole behind is what we'll probably end up doing. And then we've got the opportunity to emulate how we played last season with a high press. But I think until he's back, I don't think Collins trusts any of the midfielders we've got to play in that holding role the same way in which Luke O'Connell can play it. So at the minute, we've got Callum Styles in the 10 instead, which it works for us, but he doesn't pick up the ball in that half space in which you'd expect him to operate in as much as what he should do to allow us to play a little bit quicker and a bit faster. So I think that's the reason for the slow build-up play is just player availability more than anything else. But it's not nice on the eye necessarily, and I think it's not passing many fans sort of eye test at the minute. Results are there, but the way in which we're playing, it's not an exciting style of football, especially coming off the back of last season where we were winning and playing a style that it gets you out. You see, you're going to get opportunities in a game. We're going to be applauding big tackles on other teams' defenders whilst winning the ball up high. That's not happening this season. I think it's starting to work its way into the fan base. I've been like, is Neil Collins the right person and to take us forward and take us to that next step? But there's so much sort of context around it that it almost feels a bit too soon to judge.
Fair enough. Well, look, I mean, so we're pretty much at the end of the preview now. So we'll do what we usually do. We'll ask you for a prediction. Obviously, you guys are going to be filling the away end at the bank at the weekend. It's going to be a hell of an atmosphere. Hopefully, we can pack it out as well because it'll be Michael Skubala's first game. Well, first home game rather. So yeah, let's go ahead and let's have a prediction from you.
I'll go. I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to go 1-1.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I'm going to join you on that. I'm going to sit firmly on the fence and get splinters in my arse. But yeah, I'd love to see, the first stake in the ground of this being Fortress Sincilbank at the weekend. But to be honest, looking at a lot of the stuff that's coming out of Barnsley at the moment, and I say particularly with Mr. Cole, I just think you guys are going to be very strong, and I think a 1-1 draw would be a fair result. So. Right, well, look, floor's yours, 20 seconds, mate, if you want to plug yourself and tell people where they can find you, and we'll call that.
Yeah, so Red All Over on YouTube. We do match previews, match reactions, and at the minute, anything else in between, such as FA Cup issues and things like that. So yeah, just YouTube, Red All Over, and we'll pop up.
Super stuff. Well, thank you ever so much, mate, and we will see you at the game on Saturday if you're going. Up the Imps.